Today we're going to learn how to factor, and we're going to refer to this chart a bunch because this chart is like step-by-step pretty much instructions on how to factor. So it's going to be your factoring best friend basically. I'll explain everything on this chart kind of as we go through it. You'll get a better feel for it and how much it helps you. So yeah, so we're going to start, and this is our first problem. It's 28x squared y to the 4th minus 21x y to the 5th plus 63x to the 4th y to the 3rd. Okay, so we're going to look at our chart here, and the first thing on our chart is GCF. What is a GCF? It is a greatest common factor. And what a greatest common factor is if you find the highest multiple that will multiply into all three of these numbers. So let's start with 3. Let's start with 4. If I look at this one, I'm going to look at the first one first, obviously. So the first number I think of whenever I look at 28 is 4. And I think 4 times 7 is 28, but 4 can't go into 21. So 4's out, and the next number, 5 can't go in, 6 can't go in, 7 times 4 is 28, and then 7 times 3 is 21, and 7 times 9 is 63. So it looks like 7 will be our GCF. So we're going to write that out, 7. But then you also have to look at your letters and their exponents. So if we look at all of the x's on all three of these, we have x to the 2nd, or x squared. We have x, which has an underscored 1, and then we have x to the 4th. So the highest x that we have is 4, but we have to think the lowest one, you can only put one x into 4 and 2 if you have this one x. That makes sense. So the highest that we can write is x for our GCF. And then we'll look at the y, and we have y to the 4th, y to the 5th, and y to the 3rd. And we have to take the lowest one because we can't put 5 into 3. So we have to put 3 into 5 into 4. So we'll write down y to the 3rd because that's our highest. That's the highest we can go. So this is your GCF of this. Okay, so now with the GCF, you have to multiply out these numbers. So what times 7 is 28 would be 4. So 7 times 4 is 28. And then you have to look at your letters and their exponents again. So what times x equals x squared would be x. What times y to the 3rd equals y to the 4th would be y. And then there's a negative here, so we automatically write down our negative. And then 7 times what equals 21 would be 3. And x, we need x to the, or we just need x, and we have x, so we're not going to write x, so we already have it. And then we're going to look at our y. And we have y to the 3rd, and we need y to the 5th, so we're going to write y to the 2nd. And then we'll look at the last one. And what times 7 is 63 would be 9. And we have x to the 1st and we need x to the 4th. So we're going to write x to the 3rd. And then y, we have y to the 3rd and we need y to the 3rd, so we don't need a y. So that is the GCF part. Okay, so if we look at this, this already has the GCF done, so we are done with that. So now we move down here to how many terms, and they have one in the parentheses only. You don't look at this anymore, like you don't need this pretty much anymore, so you're just looking at what's in the parentheses here. Okay, so we have how many terms? 2 or 3? We have 3, so we do rooftop. Can you do rooftop? What is rooftop? It is when you take the first number in the polynomial and the last number in the polynomial and you multiply them. So 4 times 9 would be 36, and then you take your numbers, so that would be 36 x to the fourth and y. But because there are two numbers, so you would write it down 63 x to the fourth y. But because there are two letter things here, you can't do rooftop. The only way you can do rooftop is if it were 63 x to the second, like that. So since this has two numbers, or two letters, you can't do rooftop. So rooftop, no. So you circle last factored polynomial, which this is the last one that we factored. So this right here would be your answer. Okay? So moving on to the second polynomial. This one's different because it's only two terms. So it's 64b squared minus 441. Okay? So we're going to look at our chart. Can we do GCF? No, because these are not alike. They don't have a common factor, a greatest common factor. So we cannot do GCF. So no. How many terms? We have two terms this time. So we're going to look over here, two terms. Difference of squares. Yes or no? Okay, difference of squares is if you take two numbers that are the same, so like 6 times 6 is 36, 8 times 8 is 64. So like this one would be 8 times 8, you just it's kind of like factoring, but the long way. So you'll do 8 times 8, and then you have your b, so you have b times b, and then negative 441 is negative 21 times 21, like that, and then there's no letters, so you don't do anything with that. And okay, so we did our difference of squares, so that's all difference of squares, so it's really easy. So yes, we did difference of squares, so we're trying to achieve this little equation type thing, I guess is what you want to call it. So you need a plus b times a minus b. That's what you're trying to achieve. This is what you want. Okay? So we're going to take this 8 here, and this is going to go in our first little thing here. And since it has a b, you have to keep it with it. So b, and then we need a plus, so this is our b here, so it'd be plus 21, and then times, so we use this one and we use this one, so then we have 8b again, and then because this one's a negative, you have to do negative 21. Okay, so that is your answer for that one. And you can also check your answers. You can check your answers with both of these actually, because you can just multiply them back out. So 7 times 4 on the first one would be 28, and then x times x is x squared, y to the third times y to the first is y to the fourth. So you can do that for all of those and you can check them. But with this one, they're really easy to check because you can just go 8b times 8b. 8 times 8 is 64. b times b is b to the second. So 64b to the second, and then 21 times negative 21 is 441. So that's your answer to that one. Really simple. Okay, so the next two that we're going to do are kind of the same, but then they're kind of different because you're going to do something different with them. So 3x squared plus 13x minus 10. With this one, you are going to factor it and solve it. Factor, solve, and graph. Okay? So with this one, we're just going to start out how we did it before. So GCF, do we have a GCF? 3 can't go into 13 or 10, so no, we do not have a GCF. How many terms? We have 3 terms, so can we do rooftop? So we're going to take this one and this one. So it'd be negative 30x squared. And then you're trying to get this, so this would be 13x. This is your sum and product. Okay, so now you're trying to find what, can you see that? What times what equals 30x squared. So you'll start out with 1 times 30, obviously is 30. And then 2 times 15 is 30. Okay, so I'm going to stop there with those. So now you're going to look, and you want your sum wants to be 13. So with these two numbers, if you can make them do whatever you want. You can make the 2 a negative, you can make a 2 a positive, you can make the 15 a negative, you can make the 15 a positive. You can do what you want with them. So I'm going to make this 2 a positive and this 2 negative and this 15 positive. So negative 2 plus 15 is 13. And I always forget, like, this 2 is 2x and this 15 is 15x. But I just don't ever write them down. But just know that that's 2x and this is 15x. So, and since they're alike or whatever, it's just 13x. Okay, so now with this one, now that you've gotten the terms that will make this, you're pretty much just getting rid of this whole term here. Like, you don't need it anymore. You don't need it anymore. So now I'm going to take 3x, and remember you're trying to get that a plus b, and then times a minus b. That's what you're trying to get. So now you're going to take these terms here, since it replaced it, and you're going to put minus 2x, like that, and then plus, and then you're going to take the 15x, and then you're going to bring down your minus 10, like that. Okay, so now you have to find a GCF of these. And remember, your GCF is just your greatest common factor of them. So 3 and 2, they don't really have one, but x is the greatest common factor because they both have an x. So you're going to write x and then parentheses, and x times what equals 3x, so you'd write 3. And then, oh wait, this is x squared. My bad. Okay, my bad. Okay, so x times 3x would be x squared. And then you go ahead and write your negative. And x times what equals 2x would be 2. And then with this one, your greatest common factor would be 5. So then you'd write 3x minus 2. So 5 times 3x is 15x. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. Okay, so now you're going to take your outside terms, which are this one and this one. And it's x plus 5. And you put them in parentheses. And then because these two are the same, like this is 3x minus 2 and this is 3x minus 2, you're just going to write one of them. So 3x minus 2. Okay, so look, now that's what you had before. That's what you got with these, right? Yeah. Okay, so now that you have that, you've factored, so you're done factoring. So now you have to solve them. And solving them is really easy, because you balance them out to 0. So this one would become x plus 5 equals 0. And then this one would become 3x minus 2 equals 0. Like that. So you just have to balance them out to equal 0. So you don't have this anymore. And then you want to get x by itself. So we've done that before. So x by itself, you do minus 5 on both sides. And x would equal negative 5 for that one. So there's your one answer. And then with this one, you're trying to get x by itself. So you plus 2 on both sides. And you'll get 3x equals 2. And then since you're multiplying, you're going to do the opposite and you're going to divide. So you'll divide by 3 on both sides. So this one would equal x, or x equals 2/3. So that's your second answer. Okay? Now, because that's your solving, so you've done the solving, so now you're going to do the graphing. And the graphing is super easy as well. So, let's see. You're going to take your graph here, and I've already drawn out the little lines or whatever. And your x is what it hits the x-axis. So your x-axis is right here. This is your x-axis, and this is your y-axis. Okay, so now you're just going to graph these. So x equals -5. So we're going to go over here's your negative. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's -5. Okay, and then you're going to do your x equals 2/3. And that's, obviously it's not quite 1. So it's going to be about right here. Like right before the 1, but not right after the halfway point. So that's 2/3. Okay? Now with a calculator, I don't have a calculator with me, but on a graphing calculator, you could type in y equals, and you can type in this equation exactly the way it reads, 3x squared plus 13x minus 10. If you type that into y equals and hit graph, then you will get a quadratic graph. So it'll look like a U pretty much. And you'll get these points, you'll see these points on the x-axis. But if you hit y equals and then type in that and hit table, then it's going to bring up all these points and stuff like that. But for you to be able to graph this, yeah, of course you can just go like this or whatever and, you know, graph what it looks like on the graphing part of the calculator. Like you can just graph what you think it looks like. But if you want to be more accurate, then you can go to the table and find good points, which will it'll give you a better idea of where that line's supposed to go, and you can just kind of connect the dots with it. So a good point that I found whenever I did it on the calculator, which I don't have a calculator, which really sucks, but I found a good point on the calculator, and it was 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 0, 10. So if we graph 0, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, -10, sorry. If we graph 0, -10, it would look like that. And then the picture on it, you'd see it's going to end up looking like this, because I graphed this and it looked exactly like the calculator did. So if you graph that like that, then you just kind of connect these points here and it'll go through. Oh, it's supposed to go through that. And then it'll curve and it'll go down, and it'll probably keeps going, and then this one will keep going. So that's graphing it, and that is also super, super easy. So you have just factored, solved, and graphed. So we're going to do one more. Okay, so we're going to do one more, and it is x squared minus 45x plus 450. Okay? So we're going to look at our chart. Is there a GCF? No, there's not a GCF. No. How many terms? 3. Rooftop. Rooftop it. So we know how to rooftop now. So this is going to be, you're going to take this one and this one. So it's going to be 450x squared, and then you're going to take your sum here, be -45x. So you're going to try to find your products, and of course you'll do 1x times 450